5 years ago, the saying "East High lives" was like a mantra of sorts for students, teachers, and community members desperate to keep the doors open at the century-old school. Fast forward 5 years, and a new mantra is starting to circulate. Today, it's more common to hear "all in at East" when discussing the school that's been under a microscope since its partnership with the University of Rochester launched 4 years ago. But to what degree does "all in" include the student voice and perspective? Here's what we learned after visiting the school throughout the past several months. Take a look.
So we've shifted from kind of world poverty to now our country.
In this journalism class, high school students at East are taking a deep dive into examining wealth inequality in America.
Real change comes from the community. Real change comes from people.
But they're not just learning about the nature of the issue.
We're learning about problem solving and how you can solve problems around the world, issues in your community. And it's a cool thing because I feel like people don't really think about that much. They don't think about the problems that go around them all the time.
Ironically, it wasn't that long ago when East itself was considered to be a major problem in Rochester. Persistently low achievement rates at the school prompted the state education department to step in.
State Ed directed the district to adopt a new plan for East, a plan intended to turn the school around.
The chosen plan, implemented in 2015, has been called everything from an experiment to a project. But at its core, it's a partnership in name and practice between the University of Rochester and East. A partnership that looks like it's working.
I don't want to see surface level thinking. I want you to go deeper.
In short, attendance has gone up. Suspensions and dropouts have declined, and the graduation rate has nearly doubled from 33% before the partnership to 61% in 2018. Superintendent of East, Sean Nelms, says aside from the stats, there's another significant improvement.
I think the most important, impactful thing that happened at East, I think between years 1 and now year 4, is that the ownership is internal instead of external, meaning that this is no longer a school board's initiative or U of R initiative. This is the initiative of every student in the building, every staff member in the building, every parent who sends their child here. They own this building.
While the notion of ownership sounds nice, seniors Wilson Rivera and Tania Gaines say it's true.
I think anybody could change anything here as long as they speak up. Because students are important to the school. Without the students, it's pointless.
A lot of students have a lot of good ideas of ways things could change. So I think if they go to someone that they know can change it, then their voice will be heard.
World poverty overall has been improved. In certain countries, it's actually gotten worse.
Making their voices heard is exactly what they're learning to do in Liz Conroy's journalism class.
Charities, all they tend to do is just throw money at the problem without actually solving it.
Students in the course are also the reporters for the Eagle Express, the school paper at East. Conroy explains it's a vehicle for helping students learn the principles of journalism, problem solving, and advocacy.
One of the huge tenets of the U of R has been this idea of advocacy. It's built into our mission statement, students advocating for themselves and others. And this journalism class is a really nice platform for them to be able to really advocate for changing things they think need changing.
And changes they have made. An article about the less than appetizing menu in the school cafeteria led to new food options in early 2019. And a story by Tania Gaines about a lack of communication around senior activities prompted the launch of a more efficient communication tool for senior events and meetings.
There were a couple articles that got a lot of heat because students had some opinions about teachers using cell phones, even though, their cell phones were taken away. So, they were kind of calling out some of the injustices they saw. And I think that really gave them a lot of power to realize that their writing wasn't just writing for an assignment, but that people were listening and it had impact.
Both Rivera and Gaines are college-bound in the fall. Rivera will be heading to RIT. And Gaines, the first in her family to go to college, will be entering Buffalo State. But before they go, they've got a couple suggestions they'd like to see implemented for future East students.
They're going to start offering more dual credit classes. And I think that's really important because with an AP, it's a good class, but it's not, we won't know if you get the college credit. It all depends on a test.
I would say more of like career, like opportunities, like things they can get involved in outside of like just college, because everybody doesn't want to go to college.
I hope you're using support periods to your advantage and getting the help that you need, because that's why it was designed.
Like many things, positive change takes time. And fixing a fractured system takes patience, resources, and an opportunity for every voice involved to be heard. According to some students, East is on its way.
In May, the Rochester City School Board voted to extend the partnership between East and the U of R for another 5 years. So how does this extended partnership benefit students, teachers, and other Rochester City schools? And with its share of gains, why does East have its share of critics? Joining me at the desk to discuss this and much more is Superintendent of East, Sean Nelms. Welcome back. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
So was there any doubt that the school board would vote to renew that partnership between East and the U of R for another 5 years?
Well, I think there's always a question if what we're doing aligns with the overall plan of the district. And the district has been in transition. I mean, this will be our 5th superintendent in our 4 years throughout this partnership. And so it's always it's always a question of, does the plan match the vision of the school board? I think what wound up happening in year 4 is that the plan matched the vision of the community. And once the community owned this project, I think the board did the wise thing, and that was to listen to those who they represent, who were screaming for an opportunity to recreate and redesign schooling for all Rochester students, starting with this project at East High School.
I would think that considering the immense monetary investment, of this partnership, I would think board members and even folks from central office would be visiting East on a somewhat regular basis just to learn from and see, talk with students, talk with teachers, see what's working, what's not, and that sort of a thing. Does that happen? Are you seeing that board members and district officials are coming in to kind of soak in what's taking place?
Well, I would say that for the board members who have attended and have participated in our events or to learn more, they are championing the work at East because they see it firsthand. They see the theory and practice aligning for students and families. Some of our critics are those who have not set foot into East, or they've had their own negative experiences with RCSD, and so they assume that failure is the only option. And so for those individuals, it takes some convincing that if you give students and staff the right resources and structures so they can be successful, not only can they be successful, there are lessons to be learned that could be shared in other places. I will say that the last 4 years we fought hard to get a true collaborative environment between us and RCSD, and unfortunately that has not happened as well as it should. But the interim superintendent right now, Dale Loengard, and his team have been very open and collaborative. I left a meeting this morning where we were sharing our research around chronic absenteeism and how we've impacted our students and families and giving them an opportunity to come to school and re-engage authentically, even for those students who are overage and undercredited. And so that's just an example that with the current administration and hopefully with the new superintendent coming in, that we can truly do what this plan was intended to do, and that was to share effective practices and to learn from one another. And I think we have a lot to share and a lot to learn from RCSD as well.
Yeah. You mentioned for the board members who have come to visit, does that mean that some board members have not?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one common complaint that I hear about this partnership is that it's too expensive. And according to state data, the per pupil rate for students at East is nearly double that of students at every other Rochester City school. So first I want to ask you, is that data correct? Is the state data correct?
Right.
And if it is, how do you justify that higher per pupil rate for people who would say, don't all of our students deserve to have that same amount?
So I would say a couple of things. One is that the data that you're referring to is data that's on a proposed budget or projected budget. It's not the actual expenditures. So the governor actually passed legislation to have schools report out on the actual expenses. And so for our per pupil allocation, there are items in that we don't utilize. For example, the superintendent for the district was added into our budget as a line item. Some of the resources from downtown, like professional development, their center was added into our line item. We have our own professional development at East. And so what the district did is took the overall dollar amount, divided it evenly, and then sent it to the state. And that calculation is never intended to be a per pupil allocation. And just to extend that conversation, At East, there were 3 major initiatives prior to the U of R's investment that poured in millions of dollars to change. One was called the Teacher Incentive Fund, another was School Improvement Grant, and Small Learning Communities. Millions of dollars poured into the school with little to no results. Ironically, no one questioned how that money was utilized and or its effectiveness. And I just find it somewhat discerning that when you give students, particularly kids who have been underserved in a school community, an opportunity to have a valuable education, that the conversation shifts from their successes to the resources that was used to make them be successful. And I would say that if it costs triple the amount to have kids graduating from high school, then we should do that. But the intent of the investment up front was to change a school that had a graduation rate trending towards 19%. So the dollars that we've spent has gone to hiring 11 reading teachers, having an adequate number of social workers and counselors, creating partnerships with mental health agencies in the community. And so to mitigate all of the trauma that these kids experience, not just outside of school, but within the school system, you had to invest in it. And I would say that, 5 years from now, that investment may not be necessary. But I'm not ashamed of the money that's been spent there. And I would argue that had the school system been focused on the whole child in the beginning, then the EPO would not even exist. And so spending the dollars to give kids the right social emotional support, to allow them to catch up in reading and math, and to get them on a trajectory towards college and career, I think is money well spent. And we had to recreate the entire system. There are other schools in Rochester that may not need such an extensive overhaul. And so they should be over there learning from us and us learning from them to see what elements from this partnership can we use.
Let's talk about that, the elements that can be used, because I know when I visited the school and I've talked with you about this, you said a big highlight has been the fact that teachers develop their own curriculum. And the idea is really for that curriculum to be shared throughout the district. It's something that you've shared in suburban districts and in places all around the country. So talk about how sharing that can really be of benefit, be a service to our city school teachers.
Absolutely. So, curriculum, for those not in education know, is actually, it's a roadmap. And so it defines what teachers should be teaching year to year, what they should be teaching within the course of a year in a particular unit or lesson. And without that roadmap, teachers are left to do it on their own. And so imagine a first-year teacher coming out of college with no idea about the content, being thrown in a classroom and being expected to focus on creating curriculum and content, learning about family and community engagement, and connecting with students. That's just too much for any teacher to do. And so we spent the vast majority of our money, years 1 through 4, having our East teachers work with consultants to build an authentic curriculum that represents our students. There are critical figures in the Black and Brown community that are highlighted, illustrated throughout the curriculum. There are connections to the local history and local economy. I mean, so curriculum creates the platform in which it allows the superintendent to say to any parent, if your child enters 6th grade and they leave in 12th grade, I can guarantee that them and any other child in 6th grade will have a similar experience for those years. And right now, the Rochester City School District does not have a viable curriculum. And so this investment up front will allow all teachers throughout the district, grades 6 through 12 at least at this point, to have a roadmap for success. This is something that every teacher has access to. We've made that public to the school district, and I'm excited that under this new leadership that it's being seriously considered and will start to be implemented this summer in some locations throughout RCSD.
I think describing it as a roadmap is an incredibly helpful way for people who don't understand it, because that's exactly what it is.
And I also think that adds to the financial investment. So people may think that the money is going to individuals in terms of just lining the pockets of teachers or administrators. This is like creating a platform that will be used for years and that can be revised for years. And to have an outside agency or company do that same work would cost millions and millions of dollars.
Before we close, you mentioned leadership, and you're excited about the fact that we will see that new leader very soon in the Rochester City School District. So reflecting on your relationships with current and prior superintendents, what do you hope to do the same and differently with the new superintendent coming in when it comes to East?
Well, I think the difference will be that the current interim superintendent has already created the narrative that East is not the enemy, that we are here to work together. And so I'm excited about Superintendent Day coming in. Hopefully he and I can coordinate and collaborate on many initiatives. I'm here to support him. I'm here to support all students. I am not the competition as I was kind of leveraged in the beginning. So I'm just excited to really do the work of kids and to not make this about adults, but really anchor into what our kids and families need and our staff need to be successful.
We have to close for now, but first, a special thank you to my guest, Sean Nelms, Superintendent of East High School, and congratulations to you on the accomplishments being made at your school. You can learn more about the work being done through the East University of Rochester partnership by following along on our website, WXXInews.org.